welcome to this first video, and today we're going to be talking about my 3D printer. And how it works, what it's about, and some tips and things like that. Hopefully, if you decide that you want to get into 3D printing, it might be able to help you. So basically, what is a 3D printer? Let's start there, because you know, we might as well start somewhere. Okay, so a 3D printer basically heats up what we call a plastic filament. In this case, I don't know if you can see that, probably not. Let me just turn that a little bit so you can. It's a bit bright. I'm sorry. I'm kind of in the window, but there's a plastic filament here. I'm in my this is my really bad room, by the way, that I'm doing all these video recordings in. This is like my kind of junk room, if you like, so excuse the decoration and everything else, because it's not particularly pretty. But basically, you've got this filament here that comes down, and it goes along this tube and it goes down into what we call a hot end, which is basically this kind of long thing, metal thing like this, and at the very end of it is this tip, and this tip, which is a very, very fine small tip. I've got quite a few of them actually. They come in different sizes actually. The one I'm using there is what we call a 0.40, and they come in like 0.2. The finer they are, the obviously the finer the material comes out. So basically they look a bit like this. I don't know if you can see this, but it's just basically a really sharp, comes down to a really sharp point. It's got a very tiny hole in the middle of it, and that allows the molten filament to be squeezed out onto what we call the bed, which is this flat piece here. Now, the way printers work is that they have a code, which we call G-code, which is basically a coordinate system. So if you think of a printer as being in a three-dimensional space, so you've got X going across, you've got Y going that way, and then you've got Z going up. So if you think of that as a big cube, if you wanted to point a place in space, you would say, right, so I want it to be X across, Y that way, and Z up that way. Okay, so it could be, you know, 50, 50, 50, and it would be up here somewhere, would be that point in space. But the way the printer does it, starts at the bottom, which is 0, and then gradually works up, so it prints down layer by layer by layer. So it prints layers on top of layers. Now I'm doing, this is the first, or one of my longest prints on this printer. It's 13 hours it's going to take to do this print. So it's going to finish sometime late this evening, and it's only 10 o'clock in the morning now. So it's going to be a long old day with this print, but it should be fine. And basically, so this PLA, I'm using what we call PLA. There's ABS, there's TPU, there's nylon. There's all kinds of different filaments you can buy. PLA is popular because it melts quite at a low temperature, so like 190 to 220, 230 degrees. And it's made of cornstarch, so it's biodegradable. So you know, it's a popular. It doesn't smell. If you get what we call like an ABS, which is a harder plastic, comes out more like Lego bricks. This is a bit softer. I mean, it's hard, but it's softer than, say, Lego bricks is. Whereby that is made of material that isn't very biodegradable, and it needs a lot more heat to actually extrude and do the parts. So ABS was originally the most popular, but PLA has gradually got more and more popular over time. And the other thing with ABS is you need higher temperatures, and you need to keep the whole printer hot in this area. So you generally put the printer in a case to keep the heat in, to keep it printing well. Otherwise it tends to warp and things like that. So yeah, basically that's it. Basically the filament comes down, gets squeezed out and put on the bed, and that's how it works. So this particular printer is an Ender 3. This is my third 3D printer I've got. I made my last two. One's still in my man cave, which one of my videos I'll go through my man cave and what's in there, and show you that printer. But this is the first one I've actually purchased, and they've got so cheap and so good nowadays. I've just thought, well, you know, I might as well just buy it, because by the time you buy all the motors separately and all the bits and pieces, it's just as cheap. I think you can get this exact model on their website, which is in France, but it only takes a few days to get there for about 167 quid nowadays. Now, I did get mine cheaper because I bought it off a friend, but you know, they can be very, very cheap nowadays. I mean, I know 167 is a lot of money to a lot of people, don't get me wrong, but when we're talking about 3D printers and that, for the quality of what you get, it's really quite low priced. It really is. So you can, what can you do with it? Well, you can print all sorts of things with it. So this is an actual, what we call a flexible filament. So it comes out and you can squeeze it, and it's got flexible legs and that, and it's just kind of an octopus. But you can print out, if you're into models, you can print out model tyres, and you can print out bracelets. In fact, I've printed out one, I think, here. So this is a flexi bracelet that you can just put on your arm. So I've got a bracelet. Yeah, that's a bit galley, isn't it? But you know what I mean. Sorry, I don't mean to say that horribly. It's just, you know, actually, it's not bad, is it? Maybe I will wear it. So yeah, you can print out all sorts of things. So here you can probably just make out, this is my new CNC machine that I'm creating. So the printer is allowing me to create the parts for the CNC cutter. And the CNC cutter I'll go into in another video. But basically, I've been able to make it from that. In fact, you could print parts for a new printer. My first 3D printer was actually made out of wood and Meccano, and just put together with, and I made it work, and as soon as it started working, I printed out the parts to make it better and better, and that's how I made it better. But this one's not got so much plastic on it, it's mainly metal. Some upgrades I've done to it. One of the best upgrades I've done was at the top. This reel is on this piece of plastic that comes out like that. I don't know if I've still got it. I had it somewhere. Or maybe I've put it somewhere. But and it kind of, there's friction when it rolls, so it makes it hard for the motors to pull all the filament down. So now it's on a roller with bearings, and you can see it's a lot. That makes that a lot better. So I think that's a good upgrade. There are actually 4 motors on this system. They're called what we call NEMA 17 motors. Stepper drivers, actually, we call them, but motors, stepper drivers, or whatever. So yeah, all those go together to create the whole system. So yeah, that's an upgrade I did. I did another one which is under here, which is just a cover, because there's a fan under there, so I wanted to cover that up. And there's another one you can do. There's some electronics behind here. It's not very high voltage, but it's worth doing a cover under there, and things like that. The other one I done was I started putting some nice little blue things in there. I put a filament director there, so it makes the filament come down in a certain direction, and my little tool holder at the top. So they're all little upgrades I've done. You can use them, you don't need them particularly well. I think that's a good upgrade. The other one I've done is put this thing on here, which is called a BL Touch, which is an auto leveling device. And basically the way that works is that it pinpoints 9 places on the bed and checks the level of the bed. Now, the way you normally do it is that there's 4 screws under here. It depends on the printer. Sometimes you only get 3, but this one's got 4. And basically you bring the hot end down manually, and you put a piece of paper under it. That's the way I do it anyway. And you level up the bed one wheel by one wheel until the whole of the bed you can slip this piece of paper under. And you should always do that anyway, to keep the bed level. Now, I've done it. Once you've done it though, the BL Touch will automatically check it every time. Now, what happens is if something happens, like I accidentally hit the bed, or the bed goes out slightly alignment, and I haven't checked it, the BL Touch will come along, will take those coordinates and realise that the bed is kind of moved or warped or whatever, and will compensate the print for it. So it means you don't have to have a totally accurate bed to do the printing. So it's handy with things like that, but that doesn't mean that you still shouldn't level up the bed every so often to make sure that it isn't, you know, too far out, because otherwise you'll still have prints that they might print upwards straight, but they might still have a bit of a warp at the bottom, and in some cases you don't want that. In a lot of cases it doesn't really matter. So that's basically the only upgrades I've done to the printer, and you don't really need that if you just auto level. This bed just comes off. I've got a glass bed as well. Glass is more level, but I like this bed because, or this part here, because you can just literally pull it off. You can see I've clipped it on, and you unclip it, and you can bend it, and the prints just fall off. So it's really nice to use. So yeah, and also with this printer, I'm using what we call a Pi, running a piece of software called Octoprint, which allows me to connect from my computer to this without having to use an SD card with all the files on and stick them in there. I can just send the file to this Wi-Fi device on Octoprint and then send it straight to the printer, and it will do it all. I can control the printer from my PC. So even if I put this out in my man cave, I can control it from my PC within here, and I can even have a camera on it watching it to make sure all the print is going well. So yep, that's my 3D printer, and I hopefully I've covered just about everything, and I'll let you know how the print goes in the next video. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.